Hello, 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 you're here. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Radio Free Wall Street. And in this broadcast, as you can tell, they're getting more and more serious. We're moving closer to, should we say, resolution of the Trump crisis. In other words, however you feel about the subject, something big going to happen, right? Now, our opinion is that absolutely positively Donald Trump will not be able to finish out his term of office. We regard that as a critical market event. And we believe that he will be impeached. And we heard from Richard Nixon's top advisor in the Watergate scandal. He said Trump will undoubtedly face impeachment. And I wholeheartedly agree. And I want to tell you that the evidence against Donald Trump is mounting. And this is going to end up with a situation that will be very serious. The guy's name is Mr. Hall. And he says, watching history repeat itself with Donald Trump and his associates awaiting a similar fate in the days and weeks ahead. He said the cover-up is always worse than the crime, the attorney said in an interview with The Independent. And this one is very shady. We have a sitting president who will undoubtedly be impeached. I couldn't agree more. Now, let me tell you about this thing. The nature of being a smart person is it's mutually exclusive, okay? If you're a genius, people say, well, he's not that smart. Well, that don't make any sense. Well, how could it to someone that doesn't have the capacity to understand it? How could someone that works in a Chevy factory, slapping on a shock absorber that consumes very little news, is not an intellect, probably hasn't read more than 100 books in his life, if that many, analyze this thing? And if you're believing these Trump rallies, yeah, rah, rah, rah. I mean, you know, once they start screaming rah, 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 you know, that heat, that crowd psychology, well, that means you've turned off your brain if you give it to someone else. So if you're surprised that the people around you don't understand how much shit Donald Trump is in, they're not supposed to. They never do. Let me tell you, I've been at this 35 years. I've traded every major stock market downturn, every major financial market in the stocks and oil successfully. And I can tell you that one of the hallmarks is, as the signs of a wipeout grow, one of the things they yell out is it's different this time, and they never see it coming. And the stock market wipeout is always a devastating event, such as a real estate wipeout. Now we've got a situation that we heard from a former top Federal Reserve official by the name of Cliff Dudley. Okay, and you know, the problem is that he, like I, is of the opinion that the DoddFrank Volcker rules have been completely devastated, that they will not recognize. Here's what he said. He said that the Dodd-Frank super regulator will not recognize systemic issues. And a former Fed Reserve official who played a key role in the response to the financial crisis sounded pessimistic about whether regulators would be able to defuse the next crisis if it occurs in the non-bank sector. The political economy is much worse today than before. Yeah, I guess so. The last crisis. In terms of what the regulators can do, William Dudley said Tuesday at a conference at the Brookings Institute. Dudley, former president of the New York Fed, wants the central bank to have the power to lend to a systematic non-bank with the requirement that the firm be subject to regulation. Not only is this power not in place, it's not even seriously debated. Now, let me tell you about these non-bank entities. You've got companies like BlackRock. You've got companies like Fidelity. You've got companies like PIMCO who are not under a bank franchise. And they control more money and more investment capital than the banks do. And they are the biggest asshole, stupid-ass investors ever. They are chock full of third-world bricks. The emerging markets. Emerging what? Into shit? Debt. They bought Venezuela. They bought Argentina. They've bought Italy. They bought Spanish debt. They're chock full of Turkish debt. And they're chock full of triple B, BBB. That's the lowest investment grade paper there is, if it's not really investment grade in this day and age. And they're full of it. Well, guess what? They're not regulated. And the problem is that there is a complete rollback of Dodd-Frank and the Volcker rule. Why? Well, because the bank spent millions and millions of dollars, the biggest lobbying effort ever, has been completely gutted. Dudley said, he was gloomy, that the DoddFrank super regulator, the Financial Stability Oversight Council, would identify systemic problems and adjust the federal safety net in time to mitigate damage. I am very skeptical about whether this will actually ever be useful and is likely to be always be late. Regulators have to keep up with financial markets and are going to fail again and again, he said. And let me explain what that means. You've got the sharpest minds in the country, and they don't work for government. Government is low pay, okay? And the sharpest people are involved in a business. The business is to hide risk. The business is to make instruments that get completely around the rules and do not disclose what's going on in the financial system. Okay? It's not about analyzing markets. It's not about trading. It's not about any of that shit. It's about hiding risk. It's about not disclosing how bad the situation really is. If you understand that, then you are ready to grow into a serious trader. You are ready to take advantage of the wipeout because, like I've been telling you over and over again, these freaking idiots, it's not their job to figure it out, okay? You need to understand that it's not their job to analyze markets. It's not their job to anticipate too much credit in the financial system. It's not their job to identify bubbles. Their job is to create massive amounts of debt and give it a different name and make the risk appear to be minimal, transfer the risk to the unknowing, and it's basically where you're at. And the Fed is raising rates. Now, you need to understand that the most significant event of our time, besides Donald Trump being impeached, and that will happen, is the fact that the government has no clue about what's going on. The government has no way around this crisis. The government has not even defined the crisis yet, never mind solve it. Now, I can tell you that we are in a financial crisis. If you have any business sense, you know that you've seen people go wacko, cackle, crazy shit in the money they've thrown at projects. And you know that the system is getting uglier by the day, okay? So what your job is to get there ahead of time. Now, why they're scratching, well, I don't know, Donald Trump, I mean, it's a deep state conspiracy, right? And it's not going to go anywhere. It's bogus. It's fake news. Did you ever read the goddamn news, jerk off? Did you really, I mean, how many newspapers do you consume a day? How many stories do you read? Well, it's all fake news. I don't bother. Oh, so you've decided that because Hannity and those assholes and the president has told you fake news, and specifically told you, whatever you heard me say I didn't say, it's fake news. The tapes are doctored. Okay? You believe that shit, and then you're going to be able to analyze this crisis? My friends? You've got the biggest loser boozers who are about to make the most critical mistake ever. You've got a Federal Reserve that cannot save the financial system. You want to hear the other punchline? Not only will they not be able to identify risk. Are you ready for this? Are you ready? Not only will they not be able to identify risk. You want to hear how bad it is? If they could identify risk, they don't have the money to bail it out anyway. So who's going to bail out the bailouters? And the answer is nobody. There's no money left in Europe. There's no money left in the U.S. financial system. And this time, I can tell you, in confidential memos I've seen, if we lose 3,000 banks, so be it. We'll concentrate on the 3 or 4 systemically important banks yet to be named. And we'll merge these other ones out of existence, and there'll be massive losses taken, and people have been warned. They are not going to bail out the financial system this time. Now, if you haven't gotten to the do-re-mi point where you realize there's a risk in the financial system, then these words are useless to you. But if you can grasp that a financial wipeout is coming, if you can grasp the fact that there's no money in the system, if you can grasp the fact that 10 years of free money has caused them to loan out all the money they can, made the worst deals ever. We've built more malls and shopping centers. We've overvalued shit stocks. I mean, like, where are we at with the Tesla Mobile, Mr. Stoner? I mean, is this really a viable company? He'll loan me another $1 billion per quarter? I mean, where does it really stop? Where do you say, well, wait a minute, it's not the future of mankind. It's not a high-tech company. It's a freaking car run by a battery. They've been doing it since the 1880s. Okay, the motors may be different than the batteries, but it's the same concept. There's nothing patentable. There's nothing exclusive. And guess what? Biggest car companies moving in. You can make that statement about all kinds of things. Look, you just had the biggest internet deal with Russia put together. Huge users, okay, a huge untapped market. Google didn't get the deal. Facebook didn't get the deal. Chinese got the deal. So under Donald Trump's insane trading and trade barriers, under his insane view of how the world trading system works, he's crippling American business. As we speak, the biggest war games ever on the planet, involving the most troops and equipment, is taking place. Okay? It's not the mighty U.S. military. It's not NATO. It's Russia and it's China. NATO doesn't have a tenth of the horsepower, armored vehicles, or manpower that they do. And they're rolling right across Eastern Europe right now. And all they got to do is take a right turn, and it's like lights out Poland, lights out Northern Europe, and that day will come sooner than you think. See, as these trade crazy shit and things Donald Trump's doing grow, as Donald Trump's going to say America can great again and screw everybody else, and that's really what he's saying, the comrades are saying, well, wait a minute, Donald, don't we want to be the policeman of the world? Don't we want to be party of every trade? No, we don't need that trade. That Trans-Pacific Partnership is a bad deal, bad deal. Okay. So that means one of the biggest trading blocks ever developed doesn't have American companies or American influence in it. Silk Road. It's $1 trillion trading partnership vacuuming up sections of the world that are desperate for everything. I mean, a frying pan's a big deal to these people, okay? It's a huge market, okay? It has lots of little ants there. China's the same thing. We're walking away from that. This is smart negotiation. We will make China great again, not America. So what's happening is, as the world's dictatorships, remember, back up, I want to make a point to you. Remember when we used to laugh at the 5-year plan in Russia for harvest and goals? Remember we used to laugh at the 5-year plan in China? Nobody's laughing anymore. Okay? And I want to propose to you that all of a sudden centrally run governments are outbeating the capitalistic system, are becoming efficient competitors, are growing bigger than we are. And, you know, it's funny how they don't talk about that we were told by those PhDs of the institutes said that the capitalist system is greater because nobody can anticipate a market, no single person, and because the market randomness of blah, 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 bullshit. Reality is the capitalist system doesn't exist, okay? You got crony capitalism. So you have huge, big corporations that set bureaucracies to protect their franchise, while the innovators are being stifled in America. What's happening in China? Little lumber companies, little companies producing, especially electronics and computers and stuff, get heavily subsidized from the governments. They are centrally planned into positions of competitiveness, and Baidu is eating our lunch, okay? So all of a sudden, there are more millionaires being formed in China than America. You can't ignore this. Why? Well, you got Donald Trump. Is Donald Trump about making people wealthy? Would he talk about the entrepreneurial spirit and how he's going to incubate high tech? No, he's talking about coal mine. Hey, Billy Bob, come over here, Bob. Billy Bob's a slave, okay? It's called a wage slave. And he goes in a coal mine, a hole in the ground. That is not a successful job. Steel mills are not successful jobs. Assembly line work at factories is not a success in life. Now, building apps for smartphones, that's successful. Building virtual reality, that's successful. Building the technology of the future, that's the secret. Name me one Donald Trump program that does any of that. Okay, we have no government effort on 5G. Chinese are that's the next cell phone data service, by the way. China's investing 10 times more on 5G technology than we are. Okay? For the first time, America no longer leads technical investment. Chinese do. So you can say what you want and get bullshit any way you want. The reality is Donald Trump's an enormous disaster, and he will face impeachment, and I can't wait for that summit to go down in flames, okay? He is the worst president we've ever had. He's bringing you trade wars that will come to no good. He's manipulating the news, the marketplace, in any way he can to make himself great again, okay? He is dirty. He knows it. He's got huge legal problems. He has the cover-up like everyone else that's ever begun before him. They get in trouble in that because they just believe that they're great and you're a piece of shit. Donald Trump will be going down in flames. He will absolutely bring the economy down with him. And it is one of the greatest trading opportunities ever, okay? Now, I know that your brother doesn't understand it. And I know that your sister-in-law, oh, I don't know, okay? But do they ever really? I mean, is these really the people that you want influencing the equation? I mean, does the coal miner really understand what the future is going to bring? Really, really, really? Does he have the capacity? So what you've got are people who have not spent any time studying these issues, don't understand it. They learn what they can from Fox News if they can figure out what it is in between discotheques, snorting coke, slamming down tequila sunrises. Oh, yeah, and did I mention opioids and medical marijuana? So wigged out people you're going to go talk to about this thing, or who lies or disaster, got a 30-year mortgage. I mean, if you got a 30-year mortgage and you're fighting with your wife working and trying to make ends meet, do you really want to hear that that house is going to lose 80% of its value again? Do you really want to hear that there's going to be a wipeout again? Do you really want to hear that the fidelity thing that nice salesman on the phone sold you don't even have any idea what the hell's in there? And the answer is, hell no, you don't want to hear that, because you're living in denial. So do you really think that people living in denial have a chance of analyzing or understanding this? And that's where the great money's made. The great money's made in that you understand what other people don't understand, and you understand it ahead of time. Okay? To know that there would be a real estate wipeout in 2007, 8, 9 is nice. It really is. It's really cool. But what the hell good does it do you? How does it change your life now that you figured it out 2 years after the fact? You got to get there ahead of time. So don't let the stupid money confuse you, because they're still trying to figure out what an adjustable rate mortgage is and what the rate should be. Okay? They're still trying to figure out how many bonus points they're going to get for going deeply in debt on a freaking credit card. Okay? So if they don't understand, thank God they don't, because you understand, and that means that you can make a fortune. And to make money when everyone else is wiping out, I've done it all my life, that's a great gift. Okay? When you got cash when everyone else is broke, oh my God. Oh my God. So, where does this go? Well, my friends, you're going into the Twilight Zone. And you're going into an incredible wipeout of epic proportions. You might as well get used to it. And the other suggestion is, since it's all going to wipe out, maybe you ought to figure out how to make some money in it instead of, being part of the stupid money to lose everything. So the purpose of this whole broadcast is to tell you that there is no support for the financial system. There's no backstop. There's no cash in reserve. There is no DoddFrank. And there is no help for the U.S. economy. Okay, 10 years of endless money creation, of the cheapest money ever for the big boys. You know what it's ended up with? You've ended up with no money in the system. You've ended up with no chance of the system being bailed out. You've ended up with the most incredible, overvalued stock market and real estate market mankind's ever seen. And yeah, do you really think Banker Bob wants to see that? Do you really, really think that that is something that he would admit if it was true? And the answer is, of course not. What are you talking about? If he admits that he overloaned the marketplace, if he admits that there's no cash in the system, if he admits there's going to be a wipeout, how does that work? How can he possibly take that position? So what you've got is the biggest unkept secret in Wall Street, and that is we're about to have the stock market wipeout, a crash, and we're about to have the great 80-year event. You know what that great 80-year event is? Oh, my friends, it's the most fantastic thing ever. That is the stock market crash. And that is where the whole world changes in a day. And if you understand that, and if you can embrace it, and you can grow with it, and you can learn how to take it into money, then the world is yours, my friend. And then you become vastly wealthy. And remember, the greatest wealth created in the world is not in real estate. It's not in acting. The real wealth has always been created in trading. For 500 years, the world's had complicated trading systems. It came about with Columbus discovering America and trading on a massive scale with cargoes coming from around the world. And this trading system has evolved to a fantastic, mighty tool where the most money ever been created. Where's the wealth been created in the last 500 years? Traders. Rockefellers and all those people, they may have gotten, the Kennedys, they may have gotten a start in that. But where the wealth really came from was when they were able to trade the markets, and where the greatest new wealth has been created. So what do you have to have the trading? So we have to have the instruments. You have to know how to use them, and you have to have a little bit of seed capital, and not a lot. Now, I'm going to tell you, the days of highly leveraged trading will come to an end as next financial wipeout. They'll regulate out of business. They do not realize the power they've given the little guys. Because remember, they are not expecting a wipeout. They really, truly believe, deep down in their gut, that the financial markets cannot wipe out again. I mean, it's ridiculous, okay? How does anyone that knows anything about markets come with that statement? I'll give you what the answer is? They don't know anything about markets. They are relying upon their computer models. They are relying upon things that are not valid. They're relying upon what used to be called voodoo economics. Now, if you understand it, you go, wait a minute. I think I can understand how to make this work. And now the world's open to you. Once you get to the point of realizing that, holy shit, we are into a market that is surely going to crash. We are into an economy that has no safety net. All the safeguards from the last time are there. Do you realize that the debt is 40% bigger by any measure? And the quality of the debt is 75% less? Yeah, I mean, this is just a fact. Everybody admits it, okay? Do you realize the shadow banking system is bigger than ever? You know, there was let me give you some statistics. There was a one time when 75% of all the loans in America were made through banks. You know what it is now? Less than 20%. Now, if the banks have all the capital and the money to loan, why are they not loaning the money? Well, because of regulations, they're going through the shadow banking system. So the vast majority of loans are being made by these shadow enterprises that at some way, somehow, have a connection to a bank that's not negotiable, not transparent, not regulated, not recorded. And here's the really good part. The risk is not accounted for. Now that you understand that, then you understand the real secret. The secret is we ain't got no chance of surviving. We're headed for a Great Depression. Donald Trump is going to be impeached, and you can raise your flag, and maybe you can get in your pickup truck and drive down to one of those stupid-ass rallies, but that's not going to save Donald Trump, okay? Now, it is a situation where Trump is out of control. He's not listening to his legal team. He's not understanding the grave risk he faces because Donald Trump knows everything, and you don't know shit. And if you're advisors, you know less than shit, okay? And the reality is that Trump is going to face impeachment. And let me tell you a big event. If you really want to understand what's going to happen for the next 5 and 10 years, look at the November elections, okay? Now, if it ends up in a bust for the Republicans, which it will be, then that's the end of Donald Trump. Fast, quick impeachment, okay? Now, if it's a situation where he hasn't dealt with these issues, then it's going to be a slow burn and a torturous wipeout. Now, that all depends upon the election, okay? So it's the most important election for you to watch, if nothing else. And because what's happening is the markets are not pricing in the demise of Donald Trump. And that is really incredibly stupid. And Trump will not survive. He will not be here. And you need to understand that. Now, if you can embrace that, if you can understand it, if you can make it move the way you should, I've just given you a gift to make vast amounts of money because I think we all agree, and everyone on every side of the aisle, a Donald Trump impeachment or resignation will lead to a stock market crash. Now, the other thing is that we're headed for a downturn in the economy anyway. See, we're headed for a recession. Now, what makes this recession entirely different is the fact that Donald Trump's trade wars will lead to a depression. Now, if you can understand this bit of information, understand how important these midterms are, well, then you know what you can do? You can become one of the richest guys in town. And you can claim your stake in the world economy. And you can be vastly wealthy. And you can be prosperous. And you make a hell of a lot of money with very little money. And is it worth the risk? Well, I don't know. What would you risk to be a multi-millionaire and be set for the rest of your life? These are things that you have to decide. And, when you roll down the window shade at night and before you go to bed, all I can say is, who wants to be a millionaire?